You met John and Yoko 1971, is that?
I did a radio interview with Yoko, and we wound up becoming phone pals.
But slow down a little bit, because this is interesting. Because obviously it's a big part of your life, and I haven't read the book yet because it just came out. I want to read it. We All Shine On. John, Yoko, and Me.
Yeah.
Before you talk, so you first talked to Yoko as a radio interview.
I was sent a bunch of records. The record company always, sent
Typical publicity stuff.
Right. I listened to hers. I thought it was really unique. I thought she was unique. A one of.
For sure.
And I, went through her record company publicity guy who put me in touch with an assistant at the Dakota building. He called me back and he said, "When do you want to do it?" As soon as possible. 2 days later, I'm on the phone with Yoko. And we have what I thought was a pretty damn good interview, a penetrating interview. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't interested in asking.
What stuck out to her? What stuck about her to you in that first interview? Like, in terms of character or personality?
Original thought.
Very much so.
Original thought.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Obviously, Yoko through the years has gotten a lot of stick from the musical thing and trying to blame her with the Beatles and all that stuff. But what I think is really often missed with Yoko is she's one of the most influential artists of the 20th century.
Yes.
She really changed the way people viewed art.
I believe that to be true.
And what I always cite, this is more private conversation, is it was John and Yoko that introduced the idea of war is over.
Yes.
And at the time we're mocked and the bed in and all. But if you really look at that, that is revolutionary thought. That is an artist figuring out a way to game the system, use the media, and deliver a message that cannot be stopped.
He was the first one to take the makeup off. He was the first one to wear the glasses because he couldn't see unapologetically.
Yeah.
And he couldn't keep his mouth shut.
That's true.
And I don't remember anybody else who came along before John, and the Woody Guthries of the world and other people who spoke their mind. But in the essential rock community, coming off of, some would argue, the greatest rock group ever, he risked it all.
Yeah.
And the two of them were revolutionary in terms of those bed-ins for peace, where he said, "Look, we got married, and I know that the press is going to follow us all around looking for how we could spend our honeymoon. So we're going to lay in bed for 7 days and do an advertisement for peace. And we're going to invite the world press in every day to ask anything they want. And all we were going to do is try and spread our message." Well, you tell me 4 other people or 1 other who would have risked all that stuff for that.
Well, to convert the currency of his celebrity towards something that was beyond something self-serving.
Precisely. Possibly self-destructive.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
He knew that there were a lot of people who thought we should be in Vietnam and didn't like these peaceniks.
Sure.
So during that first interview, I heard this what I considered original concepts and thoughts, which I probed. I drove back to Laurel Canyon that night. I now had a little $300 Morris Minor car, a used car. And I thought, well and good. And I'm an insomniac, and it was 3, 4 in the morning, and I fell out. Sometime around noon or 1 the next day, the personal phone in my house rings, and it's Yoko. And she called because she just wanted to thank me for the interview. She said that she really appreciated the fact that I didn't steer her off in terms of Beatle questions, John questions, the Dragon Lady questions, all of it. and that she really had an opportunity to speak her mind, and she wanted me to know that. Now, I can tell you, I've spoken to other people in the radio and TV world. Guests will come and guests will go. And maybe it's different today, but certainly back then, nobody had ever called me to thank me for an interview. They were on to the next interview and the
Sure.
next one. They
Yep.
were doing junkets. They don't even remember the name of the guy
Yeah.
who. And I thought about it, and I just picked up the phone a day or two later and said, forgive me for intruding. You know, I had your number from the other night. But I have to tell you how moved I was by the fact that you called me. And we talked for 2.5 hours. And the next day she called me, and I called her. And it began probably 6 or 7 weeks of conversation until one day and she was called at 3, 4, 5 in the morning. She called and she said, what are you reading right now? And I said, at this very moment? And she said, no. What's on your night table? I know you were probably just sleeping. And I said, there's a new book by J. Krishnamurti, who is a kind of a philosopher. And I've been perusing that. And she told me the title of the book. And I said, do you read those kinds of books? And she said, never. I don't read any of those things. She said, I primarily read mysteries.
Uh-huh.
But John's reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that John had a kind of questionable relationship with anything related to holy people or divine people, God. And I felt that was intriguing. And she said, you should talk to him about it. You should talk to him about it tomorrow because it's his birthday. And I said, I am so certain. I'm so certain that
Sounds like a setup.
your husband has better things to do than to be talking to me on the radio. Well, apparently he didn't. And I had my first conversation with John on the eve of his 31st birthday.
on the radio.
On the radio. And of course, it wasn't long after that John called me, and Yoko called me, and John called me. And for months, I would be speaking with one, the other, or both every night of my life, during the daytime hours as well. The longest conversation where she said, look, I'm going into the office, but the light's blinking. John wants to talk to you. And she would hang up. The longest of those conversations went on for 6 hours. It became my life.